Welcome to episode 41 of Whatchu Spinnin. One episode, but a couple of weeks removed from the A Tribe Called Quest Special Edition. We had a lot of fun doing that. Had a good time off, but it's time to get back into business. How are you guys doing?
Doing good, man.
Yeah.
It was a good long break.
Yeah. Jacob, you moved.
I moved,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
You want to address that?
New space, new location.
Yeah.
All settled in, thankfully. It was stressful, but we're here now, so.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
How you doing, Matt?
Doing good. Missed you
Yeah.
guys.
Missed
Glad
you.
we're back.
And you're about to come work with me all the time again.
I am.
Yeah, you and I are
right
reunited.
next to you.
We're reunited, and it feels so good.
The boys are back.
And yeah, so we're all doing good. But enough of that BS. Let's go ahead and talk about some music. We're gonna go ahead and start with Matt's pick for this episode. If you remember from the end of episode 40, we kind of covered what that was going to be. But what do you got for us?
I went back to 1992 for an album called Angel Dust by Faith No More, their fourth album, and the last album to feature guitarist Jim Martin, one of the more influential sounds for that band as far as the guitar work goes. More of a theatrical sound for this album compared to the real thing, which is more like that rap rock a little bit, with Epic and stuff like that. And I think Jim Martin was more into that style, and when it got a more theatrical sound, he's like, I'm good.
Right.
Lots of different vocal melodies on this album. Mike Patton has a crazy octave range. I think he has 6 octaves or something like that.
Yeah.
And he sings, he sings the soft side of it, and he sings the hard side, and he sings the screamo side too. A very unique band, very underrated in my opinion, especially the keyboard player.
Yeah.
There's some good piano in all these songs. It's very eclectic. Not a lot of people like Faith No More because of maybe the screamo type, but this album is probably their best selling and most accessible out of all of them. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't think I'd ever heard like a full Faith No More album. Like I had heard Epic, obviously, was like most people have, and then I heard, maybe some other things. I think I heard their cover of Easy. That was probably the only thing I heard off of this album. And then Midlife Crisis. My dad loves that fucking song. My dad played that, would play that song, and so when you brought this up and I listened to that, I was like, damn, my dad used to play this shit all the time. Outside of like those 3 tracks, I don't have a lot of familiarity with Faith No More other than knowing that Mike Patton, 1, has a really good voice, and 2, it has multiple projects. He's kind of like a Maynard type. But this album, man, there's some parts that make you laugh, but also from a musical standpoint, they're really fucking solid and they're really good. So I was impressed. I really liked this. That's why I asked you. I was like, yeah, you said this was like impossible money wise on vinyl. You're like, yeah, it's like 140. I was like, yeah, okay, I'll go ahead and pass. But no, I really did dig this.
Nice.
Yeah, no, it was good. I hadn't heard of Faith No More.
Really?
Okay.
I had not heard of them. I probably had heard Epic because, it's like a big song of theirs.
Right.
It was on like MTV, I'm pretty sure, at that point.
A long time.
It's on Rock Band too.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay.
But yeah, it had like a lot of Mike Patton writing on it. Like he was
the majority of the songwriter on this one.
Yeah, he wrote a lot of the songs. His vocals on it too. Yeah, he at some parts he does have that like screamo feel, but it's not like overpowering. It's not like a screamo album,
Yeah.
A lot of the songs on them, great writing. They all kind of have like a theme to them, like RV.
Oh yeah.
We were quoting that not too long ago. Like it's kind of like just like what's the word? Like just the typical American like
talking shit about just society evolving basically.
Yeah, and like other songs with what was that other song that I really liked? Everything's Ruined.
Great track.
Also really like that song. Great writing, great band too. This was, you said, the last one with their guitars.
With Jim Martin, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good too. I didn't know that. I haven't heard any other stuff besides this album but I know they've been doing it for a while too.
They have. They've been around since 83.
They also had like a Tool amount of time between their last 2 albums. I don't know the names of them, but their last album came out in 2015, and the one prior to that was like 97. Like
it was album of the year, and then Soul Leviticus was the next one.
Yeah, after that. And it was like another 20 years or like almost 30 at that point. It's just funny. I did a little deep dive today, and I was like, oh my god. I was like,
right. But I think every musician in that band has their own little unique part. Roddy Bottom, I think, is the name of the keyboard player. And that piano you hear throughout the whole album.
Yeah.
Whether it's soft or hard, like on is it Jizzlobber or
Yeah.
Like, dun, 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 like
the organ on that is like spooky.
It is
like
spooky.
Scary.
Yeah,
Like,
it's almost like Marilyn Manson kind of feel, even before Manson. But
and Be Aggressive too.
Yeah.
That one's like super spooky, like Frankenstein-esque. That
Mhm.
organ part, like fucking.
the meaning behind that song is kind of weird. But I think a lot of these songs have hidden meanings as well.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing is, it's all so well made, and like his voice is so good that it's one of those albums that kind of suffers from the at first listen you're just like, man, this is really good, and then it takes you a little bit to kind of figure out what the true hidden meaning behind these songs are. Like RV, like I didn't catch like some of the acute racism in that song. Like when he's like, nobody speaks English anymore. Like I didn't hear that until like the third time I heard it. I didn't hear that until like the third time I heard it, and I was like, okay, but that's kind of something that you can appreciate about, it's like at face value it's easily accessible and people like it, but when you sit there and listen to what he's actually saying, and then on top of that what the instruments are doing, because Robbie Gould is a hell of a fucking bass player throughout this album. Starts it off and it's just that slapping bass line to start the album. Oh my god. But it is something that can be appreciated, the hidden meaning, and having it be kind of, you have to really kind of listen to a song multiple times.
Or even listen to read the lyrics.
Read
which I
them,
did more of re-listening to this album on Spotify, where you can bring up the lyrics. And it's just like a lot of the things that he picked up from fortune cookies and textbooks for the songwriting side. So when you're reading the lyrics, you're like, oh, that kind of makes sense, because this doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah, none of it. It's just random. It's like writing one-liners, or making a grocery list as you go about your day. He's just like, oh, that's a funny thought, and then none of it kind of strings together, especially on like RV, and it's like, what the fuck? Yeah. Okay, but it lands.
It does land.
It's all kind of like, it's rock, but it's all kind of different variations of it. Like Malpractice, that's kind of like death metal, I feel like it's like a lot more
that's one of
heavier.
the more intense songs on that album,
for
sure.
And
absolutely.
then, like Smaller and Smaller, that one just feels like kind of like, like a basic, like classic, like rock song.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, it's all the same thing, but it's like kind of its own like lane too, the songs, which is interesting.
And then Land of Sunshine is like when I hear Land of Sunshine, it's like, oh yeah, this definitely came out in 1992. Like it is so 90s, feeling like, yeah, but yes, it's true. And like
sing and rejoice.
Just everything about, and it is, this album came out in 1992, like I just said, and we talked about how there's a lot going on, kind of. And it's, again, one of those perfect examples that we've talked about time and time again. It's like the 90s was super experimental because people were tired of hair metal, and everyone's like, well, smoking weed's kind of cool. It's pretty cool when you smoke weed, making music. You know what else is kind of cool? Heroin.
Yeah, right.
Heroin's not cool.
No.
People in the 90s thought it was. It's not.
It's not.
Come to find out, it kind of sucks.
It kind of kills you.
Kind of. Yeah. Kind of fucking sucks. That's what they thought. We don't think that. But so it was just all over the place. And Faith No More in this album in particular is a pretty good example of that. While it is, it's a Faith No More album for sure, but there is, kind of some circusy vibes, some like funky kind ofness. It's a hodgepodge of what their sound was too.
And the album title's kind of thrown off a little bit, calling it Angel Dust, not referring to the drug, but like, they're trying to say that, this album has so many good parts to it, accept it for what it is, no matter what it's called.
Okay. Really?
We could call it Dickhead and it'd still be a good album, Yeah. I think they were just trying to throw that shock factor, and I think for that era of music, early 90s, you could just do whatever you want,
And that album title fits the time frame too.
Right.
Of like drugs and stuff, and Angel Dust being one of them. I was reading something that like the front cover of like the Swan or whatever it is, it's like completely different to the back cover.
Mm-hmm.
Like what's on the back cover?
It's like a meat hook, like
like a cow or something.
Yeah, like in like a factory or like a slaughterhouse kind of vibe.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's like two like completely different.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to look up photos of it because I read that I was like, what? That's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but yeah, it's kind of that same thing that you were saying. It's like one thing shows one side of it, and then the other side, it's like you kind of have to look into a little bit more, or it's a little bit more different.
Yep.
That people don't catch. Like, because if you see the front cover, it's like, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
But then the back, it's like, oh, so.
The front, I'm glad that you guys brought that up, because the album cover doesn't. It's one of those weird, it's not exactly a judge a book by its cover kind of scenario.
Sure.
But the content doesn't match. To a certain degree. I'm sitting there listening to this week and looking at the album cover, and I'm like, why? Like, it was just weird. It was just kind of a weird match, but it made me like it that much more. I was like, they just have a random blue background with this fucking pelican swan looking bird. I was like, that's actually and it's called Angel Dust, and none of this matches, but I fucking like it. It's like controlled chaos.
Yeah,
it's Pelipper from Pokemon.
Yeah,
just sitting there.
Stop it. I've been in the lands lately, dude.
Yes.
I've been hunting them Pokemons, dude.
But I like that they kind of did that. They made like the main front cover like the attention grabbing, and then the back side for like people that look into it. People that read between the lines and stuff.
True. Shortly after the album came out, Roddy Bottom, the keyboard player, came out as gay and was like very, that's who I am. And like for that time in music, for people to just be open about that says a lot. Just like I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I'm in a metal band and I'm gay. Like that wasn't the thing back then. Like it was a macho vibe for the most part. So for him to do that and not have any regrets, and for Faith No More to continue to progress, it's pretty cool.
It is. That is, you're right on the nose. The 90s was like not the best kind of time. It was kind of progressing toward being more accepting of that. And then especially a scene like Faith No More was kind of lumped into, touring with big metal acts at the time that this album came out. That's pretty fucking cool.
They're touring with Guns N' Roses and Metallica when
this
album comes out. So it was very macho,
It's
very guy vibe.
So that I dig the hell out of that. I didn't know that.
That's cool.
It is.
Yeah.
How many have you seen?
I've seen Faith No More once up in Seattle.
Yeah, but you've seen. Didn't you see Phantomos too, or have you seen?
I have not. I've not seen Tomahawk or Phantomos or Mr. Bungle or any of those.
Oh, okay, I thought for some reason you said that you had seen Faith and one of his side projects. But how was it live?
It was great. Like I said earlier when I was talking to you, he did a Burt Bacharach like loungy, soul vibe song and just killed it. Like you're just like his range is so good when he can do a song like that and just nail it.
Yeah.
So.
And he kind of shows that not just his vocal like range like not that kind of shit, but his kind of Swiss Army knife-ness that he's got to him with his voice, because a lot of this sounds off Angel Dust sounds kind of croony, it's almost like old Elvis kind of talking to myself, and then going into what was the fucking song we just talked about, Malpractice, songs like Malpractice,
complete opposites,
and
like,
so that I can assume that him doing a loungy kind of song like that, he fucking killed. I haven't listened to the link you sent me yet,
you have to listen to it,
but
like,
I definitely will, because that sounds like something he would just knock out of the park.
And his range is so crazy. He's done soundtracks for different Netflix things, and he's actually done like the sound effect vocal.
Really?
Like whether it's a high-pitched scream from 1922 that's on Netflix or different things like that.
What?
Yeah.
Damn.
Those are all him doing those things.
Yeah, no, Mike Patton, he's like really talented, like, and all of his side projects too that he's done. I was listening to, what is it, Mr. Bongle? I was listening to that, and that was interesting.
Yeah.
It's like it's like new, like older stuff too.
Older, yeah.
Like it was like one of his first things that he was doing.
Yep.
So you kind of tell he had that in him, that he was like, kind of out there experimenting with new things and made them work most of the time.
And a lot of that kind of earlier stuff that he was doing, at least from what I've heard, it's been a while since I went back, but it was a little bit more funk-esque.
I think Mr. Bungle was
like
a little bit more
Mr.
like
Bungle was like, it was watered down. It wasn't like funk like Parliament, but it was kind of like grungy funk music, like anti-Chili Peppers. It was like the Waluigi to the Red Hot Chili Peppers almost.
Right.
Like,
A little bit, yeah.
So to go from that to being in Faith No More, which is one of these highly underrated, great 90s like alternative bands, is pretty fucking impressive. And then to go on and do literal I'm just going to do sound effects. I'm not going to voice act. I'm going to do high-pitched screams on Netflix shows.
Right.
That's tight.
And he kind of came into his own. Like I said earlier, he did all the songwriting, but the album before this, The Real Thing, he was just there to kind of do the vocals. They'd already written the album.
Yeah.
He did a new lead singer, and he just happened to step in and do it. And so to get the chance to do the second album and do your own thing,
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty cool that they give him that kind of that free range to do it.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking rad. Yeah. I do like that. Shout out Faith No More, man. Underrated.
Very underrated.
I almost went back I added like a couple of songs off The Real Thing to like a playlist that I make, or I made a playlist based off of artists that we've all talked about, but I go, whenever you guys reference another album, I'll go and try to listen to some of it, and I chucked a couple Real Thing songs other than Epic on this playlist, so I'm gonna dive into a little bit more.
And their other albums are great, but I just feel like this one, having Jim Martin on it, he's very Faith No More. I don't know if you've seen Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, but he's in the movie.
Yeah.
He plays a part. He's got the the long hair, the red glasses.
Yeah, okay.
That's Jim Martin.
Hell yeah.
But
Shall we?
We'll dive in the top 3. I'll start it off.
Go ahead.
Start with honorable mention, Jizzlobber, based on the title and just the overall chaos in that song. It's just fun. Number 3 would be A Small Victory. Number 2, Everything's Ruined. And then my favorite song is the second track, Caffeine.
I did like Caffeine.
Yeah. I like the breakdown, how it slows down a little bit.
Yeah, it is. That is a good, and a good second song for the album, too. It is a strong start to it. Do you want to go next?
Yeah, I'll go. My honorable mention, I'm going to go, same thing, I'm going to go Jizzlobber. That screaming and then that organ is just so haunting. It's just so spooky. Top 3, I'm going to go Kindergarten.
Nice.
It's a good track.
I like that song, Smaller and Smaller. And then my favorite track for sure, Everything's Ruined.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
Great song.
Nice. Honorable mention for me was Be Aggressive. I don't know. I liked that spooky ass organ, and then I'm also a big Marilyn Manson fan, so it reminded me of Mob Scene. Where, be obscene, and so just
it's the same kind of thing.
And Be Aggressive is the original cheerleader chant, so I thought that was pretty cool. So honorable mention that. Number 3, Land of Sunshine. That funky ass bass line in that song is just top notch. Number 2, Midlife Crisis. Shout out my dad for playing that growing up. I even asked him today, I was like, didn't you listen to Midlife Crisis all the time, or am I insane? He's like, oh yeah, no, that song fucking bangs. I was like, yeah, I know. And then number 1, RV.
Nice.
I've been walking around my house the past 2 nights just being like, talking to myself. Everybody. Dude. Great song.
The lyrics to that are so good.
Dude, yeah.
So good.
And that's the thing, is he's like grumbling them half the time, so you really do have to pull them up and read them to understand what he's saying.
I never thought you guys would like that song. So
No.
I was like, that's the song they're going to skip. They're going to skip that
funny,
one if they
dude.
skip any. But no, you guys like it.
Dude, it's so funny, and
That's
like
cool.
And that's the one I was mentioning. I was like, yeah, it's a funny song, but also altogether like the piano and like the circusy kind of swing feel was just top notch.
Nice.
But that was Angel Dust by Faith No More, released in 1992, correct?
Correct.
Which was Matt's pick for this week. We'll be right back to talk about Jake's. That I almost brought for next week's pick. Okay. Yeah. It's time to.
What jazz?
Why jazz? It's time to shift gears a little bit and go into a completely different realm with Jacob's pick. So, what do you got for us?
Yeah, so I got some jazz, particular wah jazz, which is just fancy way to say Japanese jazz. It's like a jazz compilation of jazz music from 1968 through 84, but it's really mainly like late 60s, early 70s stuff. a bunch of different artists, a bunch of different, musicians in that time. Like it has like a staple from like their album, for different artists.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a great selection. 2 weeks kind of felt like too much time to be listening to jazz, but it was enough, I feel like, to appreciate it.
It was, yeah.
Because jazz, like, there's so much that goes into it. But yeah, I like this album a lot. What did you guys think about it?
I'll start off my spiel, just piggybacking off what you said about 2 weeks being too long to listen to jazz music, and I agree to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But to me, jazz music, and like almost all genres of music, you can almost find a certain part in your day to where it would fit.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm like making a meal, chopping the veg, marinating the meat, whatever the fuck, put on some jazz. Like I put this on and made a beer cheese soup. Like I was telling you, I made a beer cheese soup, had this playing. I did that when we've brought up Jazz Abroad and
Nice.
some of those other artists. So it has its place, but I do agree. The homework for the 2 weeks is short albums across the board, by the way. Like just an hour or even less with mine. So I can see where you're coming from, but also I was like, let me do stuff to where that makes sense to listen.
You put it
to
in,
this.
yeah.
Yeah.
You put a lot of love in that beer cheese soup listening to jazz.
Yeah, it was literally, I did all 3 of our albums. And that was when I messaged you and I was like, yeah, I listened to.
You were making food.
Yeah, I was like, I made soup listening to Underoath, and you're like, that soup was either hella seasoned or really, I can't remember what you said.
Just
but
aggressive.
It was an aggressive soup, yeah. But I balanced it out with the jazz at the end.
Nice.
But no, I really liked this. There's some other stuff I'll dive into later, some weird crackheaded thoughts that I had listening to this morning, but man, they just know how to play the fuck out of those horns, and the horns and the piano throughout this were like 2 main things that I kind of gathered from it. I really did enjoy this, hence why I was in the process of about to order it before I came here, and then I was like, let me ask Jacob if he got it at Moonrock so I don't have to wait.
Yeah. For me, I'm still getting into jazz and listening to more artists from that genre. So for this, I just was like captivated right away. I was like, holy cow, this sounds cleaner than a lot of jazz that I've heard from the States. And it is 1960 to 1984 date range. Man, I was just blown away, like the instrumentation and just the changes. And like I said, I'm still new to jazz, but I kept playing it over and over again. Adults Only was one of my favorite tracks on that. Yes. I started trying to dive into more stuff by Tadaki Mitsuko, I believe is his name.
Yeah.
I think he died in 1990, so finding a lot of stuff about him was a little difficult. But
Right.
all the people on this, compilation album just set the tone for the unique style that they have for wah jazz, and it blew my mind, Can't wait to find this. Hopefully I'll find it as well.
Yeah.
It's just so much fun.
Yeah, no, it's real. Jazz is one of those genres, I feel like, that it's so dense because it was all over the world. I mean, this is stuff from Japanese, like in Japan.
Yeah.
Like, who would have known that they'd have their own, like minefield of just people going at it, making music.
Yeah. And even, and it might not even be like a cultural or regional thing that they managed to implement into it, but it is different that there was a lot of like muted snare drum work done on this, a lot of different percussion from various parts of the world. Like they used the wiro, which is that thing that looks like a fish that just goes
yeah.
They used that thing. There was a lot of no snares on, so it didn't make that it was just a hollow sound. Timbale used the percussion throughout this was what really interested me. Throughout all of the different artists on it, you can kind of see various percussion instruments being used, whether it was from something from Japan, with like the hollow drum sound, or something from even South America, Africa with the wiro. So that was intriguing as hell to me, because I was like, damn, this is a compilation of multiple people and it's all wild.
Yeah. It's all like very intricate. They all have also different types of jazz. Like some of it is like funky jazz, some of it's rock jazz.
Oh yeah.
Some of it there's a really good bass, like on Breeze, I think it is.
Yeah, I think
the bass on Breeze, I don't know, it sounds like some like Daft Punk stuff, like something Daft Punk.
It is
like
kind of that rolling kind of.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's super good. All of the like artists too on it are like super iconic, I guess, in Japan. Like the first song that it kicks off, it sounds like some Cowboy Bebop stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I've heard that melody, the like da na na na.
Yeah,
it's like a Japanese nursery rhyme or something. I've heard either from like a Bon Jovi song or like some random shit. I'm serious, some random shit. That's what I remember. I'm like, I heard that before.
Yeah. Tokyo Cuban Boys. It just sounds like that song just sounds like something off Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah.
I used to have that vinyl too until I got rid of it, but it sounds just like that. Like it's
hell yeah.
Fucking nuts.
It did kind of. There was, man. It's goddamn. The muted. I liked the muted horns on a couple of the tracks on Adults Day. Yeah, the one that we keep bringing up.
Adults Day so good.
Yeah, halfway through that song, the horns are just going fucking bananas, which is awesome.
That song, like every time I heard it, it kind of reminds me of like old school movies. Like old school good guy, bad guy movies, like
Clint Eastwood type flicks.
Yeah, like the bad guy is like trying to run away from the good guy, and he's just like shooting all these bad guys. It's just like a compilation of like a cop race or whatever. Like, man.
So was this just something that caught your eye?
Yeah, how did you stumble across that?
Yeah, I heard Romance off of this album. Super good jazz. Like I feel like it's like a really like mellow jazz song.
That's typical. That's like the most American jazz song on this album.
Yeah, it's like very easy listening. You could get into it real easily. And then from there, I heard like Breeze off of this, and then I started diving more into it, and I was like, oh, there's like Volume 1 and Volume 2 of this. So then I saw this in person, and I was like, oh, I gotta get this now.
I mean, no shit.
Yeah. And it's great stuff. On the album, on the vinyl, actually, rather, there's 14 songs. Yeah. Or on Spotify, there's only 8.
Which is is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, I'm bummed that wasn't part of my listening excursion, but
yeah, the Mustache, the last song on this, it's so funky. Mm-hmm. It sounds like, I wrote this down, it sounds like some like Jimi Hendrix stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy, man. And there's a crazy drum solo also.
Okay.
Because jazz drummers, they're notoriously nuts.
Yeah.
Super crazy guitar and drum on Mustache on this.
Hell yeah.
It's on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm going to find that other version.
Yeah.
I want to hear that now.
It's super good. It's super cool.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jazz drummers' brains are put upside down, so they just do all sorts of shit. They don't even hold the stick right. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Does the album have some like inner album notes about that time or
that too? Yeah, it has kind of like.
Oh, you can't read. Okay.
Yeah, there's like English and Japanese, but it's like 2 different versions. Like it kind of.
That's pretty
goes
sick.
Through like just a brief like introduction of the band and like how they made it and stuff like that.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
And it has the picture of the albums that they came off of, like the songs.
Oh, that's cool. Some of those album arts are sick.
This one's Breeze. I think this one's Breeze. This one's Romance.
Nice.
Yeah, I was like looking into this. I was like, let me see how these are, and they're super fucking expensive.
Oh, I bet, man.
Yeah.
Jacob is deep diving into Japanese.
Yeah, I was
jazz.
going into it, man. I was like, I'll stick with just this. I'm not trying to blow.
You got all of them in one there.
Yeah,
oh
exactly.
My god.
Exactly.
But those album covers are legit.
That is
cool.
And that's cool that they highlight that, because it is a compilation. I'm glad that they kind of, rather than being like, no, this is our thing, they kind of pay their respects to the OGs.
Yeah, and I feel like it's something that can be lost if it's not, like brought up and, reimagined. Because a lot of the stuff I was looking at too, specifically, funny enough, because all this guy's album covers are like of naked women. Jiro Inagaki in Soul Media. All of his albums, like no one's selling them. Like they were pressed, but like no one's selling them.
Oh yeah,
kind of nuts.
Yeah,
but yeah, like it's cool that they made just a compilation, so you get experience to like everything.
Right.
You can learn everything from just one album of like all these other artists and stuff. So that was cool. Yeah.
Hell yeah. I wonder what makes... I'm going to have to listen... I'm almost interested to listen to that guy's work and see why people aren't selling it. Is it...
I don't know. It's weird. He's like he has like song credits on a lot of the songs.
Yeah. That's wild. That's weird.
Well, just like for you, like you wouldn't have found this unless you saw it. And,
Yeah.
Like
No
so
idea.
now you know about these other artists and songs.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know, dive into that more. But I'm so glad you brought it up because
Me
now
too.
I'm like, oh man, this opens a whole new genre of possibilities that are not from the States. It's Japanese jazz, you know.
Yeah.
So it's just, you know,
Yeah.
I like that.
Jazz music is kind of hard to get to, I feel like, and hard to get into.
It is. I would
Mhm.
agree. That's probably why I waited so long to even try. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for it just to see like it's just so culturally accepted like everywhere in the world.
Right.
That they were trying to influence, you know, like Spanish jazz and American jazz and all these other, you know, types. So it's cool that they did it and they brought it all together in a compilation, a 2-series. So yeah, I was glad to bring it up. I feel like I had to.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
So, and having 2 weeks, that's why I feel like it felt long.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it let me soak it in more personally.
Yeah.
So I liked it more.
Yeah, kind of like I said last episode, after I brought up Underoath, I was like, fuck, I should have brought up a more, like, a bigger album. Like, I was torn between bringing up Underoath or The Wall by Pink Floyd, and I still wish I would have brought up The Wall, but here we are. It is what it is. It is what it is. I might break my ankle so that way you guys get an extra week to listen to The Wall whenever that happens. But no, I enjoyed, you know, all of these albums over the extended break. Like I said, you gotta find ways to slide them in. You know, whether you're driving yourself to work or sitting in the parking lot because you got there a couple minutes early, or you're making some soup, or you know, got a nice woman over. There's something for everybody. It's the jazz. You gotta put the jazz on when you got a nice lady of the night over.
We got the jazz.
It's a jazz.
It's jazz.
Top threes?
Yeah. What are you guys' top threes?
I'll start off.
Dude.
Honorable mention for me would be Fourth Expression. Third place we got Breeze. Second, Waterase.
Yeah.
And then of course Adults Only is my top.
Hell yeah.
Such a fun track.
For me, honorable mention was Do It. I also liked that it had an exclamation point. Reminded me of Doing It. Shout out. Number 3 was Mago Uta.
Yes.
That was
Nice.
like Sakura was a really good way to start off the album, but Mago Uta was really when I got into it.
When it picked up.
Yeah, when it picked up, I was like, that funky guitar riff, just that. It doesn't change much. That piano run at the beginning is just. Fuck, it's gross. Number 2, Adults Day. Or Adults Only. Is it Adults Day or Adults
Adults
Only?
Day.
Adults Day, yeah.
No, it's all Adults Day, and then number 1 for me was Romance. Like, I just like that really soft kind of, because it was after a couple of more quote unquote as aggressive as jazz can get tracks, and then Romance comes in and it's just very soft and mellow, like a rainy day kind of vibe.
Yeah.
So those are my top 3.
Nice. I like your guys' picks. Mine top 3 honorable mention. I'm gonna go Mustache. Just because it's
Yeah,
just
the song we
because
never
it's not on Spotify. If you guys heard it, it would be in your guys' top 3.
Oh, I'm sure it would be. I'm sure it would be.
It's so good.
Matt had the decency to tell us not to listen to the deluxe edition.
Yeah,
And you're over
right?
here,
Don't
and
do
you're
it.
over
Don't
here,
listen to Easy.
you're over here being a pay-to-play player. You got DLC characters.
Yeah.
Bastard.
Top 3. I'm gonna go Breeze.
Yep.
I love that bass on there.
Oh, yeah.
Romance, and then my favorite track that I really got into, same one, Mago Uta.
Yeah.
I love that song.
Fuck yeah.
But yeah, definitely if you guys get the chance to listen to the rest of the 7 tracks.
Oh yeah. I'm on the
Give it a
hunt.
shot.
I'm on the hunt for this now.
Yeah.
I don't have like a solid jazz vinyl in my collection. Like, I have some stuff that kind of flirts with that genre, but I heard this and I was like, gotta get it. So I will give you a full report on the extra tracks. I'll be like, hey, listen up.
I like that.
Mustache, cool. Definitely would have been top 3.
Yeah.
But that was Wah Jazz, Japanese Jazz Spectacle Volume 1. Whatever the fuck it says, tasty, delicious, swanky jazz from 1968 to 1984, which was Jake's pick for this week. Really good jazz. Go find it on Spotify. Yes. And we'll be right back to wrap this bitch up and talk about my pick for this week. All right. What do you say?
Dun, dun, dun.
We move on.
Yes.
It's time to take this baby on home and transition hard again away from jazz and go to some Underoath. They're Only Chasing Safety. Their 4th album, released in 2003 or 4. I was reading, okay, my bad. 2004. Some good post-hardcore, former Christian band, really damn good music. I will get into some other stuff. Jacob apparently has some stuff he would like to say. Matt, I'm sure you've got some stuff. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, I was first introduced to Underoath years ago, I think on Pandora. Like, I was just listening to music in Pandora. I didn't pay for it. I was broke, so I was also like 13.
Right. so broke and 13, that's kind of synonymous with each other.
Doesn't mix well, but like, it got brought up, I think, as like, recommended or whatever. Okay. And I was like, oh, this is good. And then I got into this album, Define the Great Line, their first album, what's it called? I wrote it down. The wrong notes. The Changing of Times.
Yep.
And when you brought this up, I was going back into their catalog because we had some time. The Changing of Times, it was like a lot more screamo heavy.
Yeah.
A lot more like out of the chest, like screaming, and then with this, it's like a lot more of mix.
Yeah.
It's like a lot cleaner.
I went back to listen to the Changing of the Times this past couple of days because it like auto played after the end of Chasing Safety, and I was like, oh fuck, I haven't heard this, and it is very much like, and it has a much more raw sound than this or Define the Great Line, because I mean that came out after, but
this one sounds a lot more polished, a lot cleaner. They produced it a lot better. But Underoath, it's something that I've really been into for the longest time. Funny enough, I think this was like probably one of our first times that we connected.
Yeah, it was. I think this might have even been, I think this was after we talked to MF Doom and dark stand-up comedy, and then I said something, I was like, you ever listen to like post-hardcore? And you're like, oh, like Underoath? And I was like, shut the fuck up. I was like, what the fuck you know about Underoath, dude? And you're like, 12th or not? I was like,
that's really cool, actually.
I was like, get the fuck out of here.
I was like, this Dorian guy is kind of shady, and I was like, oh, he's kind of cool. Okay, he listens to Underoath. He's kind of cool.
No, that was exactly it, because he said something about like collecting vinyl or was playing like something. I was like, oh, you listen to Doom? Because that was the first thing, and then. Or even before that, you asked me if I listened to Joey Diaz, and I was like, yes. I love inappropriate stand-up.
Yes. And
then you fucking tricked me in being like, oh, I definitely listen to Underoath, and I was like, no, the fuck you don't. And turns out, so that being said, Jacob and I will probably nerd out about Underoath some more. Matt, this was your first introduction to him.
It was my first introduction.
So what did you think?
The album cover, drew me in right away.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you showed that to us a few weeks ago, I was like, oh, this is really, for this time of music, it's kind of not dark, but it's very, it's very out there. You're like, what are we doing? What are we listening to?
Yeah.
And once you play that first track, you definitely feel that vibe.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's a consistent vibe throughout the whole album. Like, it doesn't stray away from that. It doesn't try to really slow it down. If it does, it also incorporates that screamo aspect into the song as well.
Right.
I like the fast percussion. Like, the drumming on this whole album is just like, it drew me in. Every song, the drummer's on point. You know,
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's quick or slowing it down a little bit.
And their drummer is also their clean vocalist.
That's what you were saying,
Yeah, Aaron Gillespie. He does their clean vocals, and then they have
Right.
another guy just for screaming.
And I like both. I like the variety of both. You know, I probably preferred the clean vocals more because it was more of a melody. But
Right.
The screamo worked too, and it was, like I said earlier, it's just consistent. It doesn't stray away from that at all.
No.
It is what it is.
And the thing that kind of, I bless you.
Thanks.
As I've kind of shown, I'm into the screamo kind of shit. I like that. That aggressive vocal does something for me, and so I like both. But what draws me to Underoath's kind of scream vocals is the same thing that draws me to In Flames, like Anders Frieden's scream vocal, is that you can actually understand the words for the most part. You can kind of get the gist of what he's saying, which is kind of lost once you graduate into stuff like Die Hard is Murder, Lorna Shore, Job for a Cowboy, those other like heavy deathcore bands. So I like, and also the clean vocal, Aaron Gillespie's got a hell of a fucking voice.
He does.
And then paired that with a guy who can scream his dick off. Mint. That's good shit.
Yeah, no, it was really good. Coming back to it, I felt a lot of what's the word?
Nostalgia?
Nostalgia, yeah.
Yeah, same here.
It brought me back to it, like listening to this. I've always been a fan of this album. Yeah, like you said, that's the first thing that catches your eye, the album cover. Like, it's just this woman's face just with the oxygen mask on. I guess apparently I was looking into it. It was like a different band member's wife.
Okay.
Because they were thinking about hiring like an actual model, but they just picked out someone's wife, and she wore it, and that was the album cover.
Hell yeah.
Pretty cool album cover. I don't think I've seen any other album cover like that.
No.
Like, just with like an oxygen mask, just like zoomed in, just nothing but the face.
Yeah.
Really neat. Yeah, the screamo side of it, it's there, but the clean vocals just levels it out so well.
It does. And I
Right.
think like the third track in was it Reinventing Your Exit.
Yeah.
When
Reinventing
after
Your
I
Exit.
started hearing, I'm like, oh, here it is. There's
Yeah.
the melody I'm waiting for. And after
Yeah.
that, I was just hooked for the rest of the album.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I Don't Feel Very Receptive Today, like that
Yes.
that song. And then kind of what you were talking about, Matt, the final track on the album, Some Will Seek Forgiveness, Others will chase safety, isn't it? That song has a mix of both worlds. It has that kind of long, drawn out, like, acoustic intro, and then just powerful. Like, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it right now. I listened to it on the way here, and I was like, holy fuck, like, this song kicks ass, like, still. And just having that, being able to have the best of both worlds like that is really something to kind of give praise to, because having that, because even the guitar work on this, I think the drumming and the vocals are kind of the main, exports out of this band. But the guitar work on this still is pretty nice.
Yeah.
So
It's pretty cool too that like in this time they were still, because that's how they originally started, like they were like a Christian band, and then they turned into this.
Yeah, and then and this was
neat.
kind of when this was a couple albums after they stopped being.
Yeah, they stopped doing that. They had a couple
'Cause
other
I was
albums.
wondering like when that transition took place. Like
This was like, I think this was the biggest album. I think this was the first big album after they stopped. Because the thing, and here's the thing with Christian rock, Christian metal, there's a litany of bands out there that are actually labeled as Christian metal or Christian rock that would fool the fuck out of you. There's a band called Red that has an album, came out when I was in like elementary school, so probably like 2003, 2005, 2004. It's a Breaking Benjamin album. It's not Christian at all. Like, if you sit there and decipher the lyrics, yes, there could be some things drawn from it. So listening to something like this, where there's this aggressive screaming, and I've also been to concerts where there's dead ass fucking screamo Christian bands. Yeah, I can kind of see it, but you listen to some of their old stuff and it is kind of blatant. But this was kind of their big jumping off point.
Okay.
Yeah.
But also, Christian rock bands are really good at disguising it. So who the fuck knows?
Mm-hmm.
This whole thing could be praising Jesus, and we're here talking about it. Nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Yeah, we're going.
It's good music.
At this point too, they were like getting really big because
Mm-hmm.
like they were touring with 18 Visions, with Thrice. They toured with Coheed and Cambria.
Yeah.
So these like really big up and coming groups, these bands.
I think they did Warped Tour shortly after this too, didn't
Yeah,
they?
yeah, they did. So, yeah, it was really big for them, and it was leading up to also Define the Great Line, another album that I love of theirs.
Oh, yeah.
Is that the follow-up to this
Yeah,
one?
Yeah.
the follow-up to this one, it's super good.
Really good. If I were to give you another album to listen to of theirs, it's Define.
Yeah, it's definitely that one. But this one, it's really unique too, because it's like 10 albums or 10 songs, and it's just all, no skips.
Yeah.
No skips. Every sounds really good. Really interesting that I noticed the Blue Note instrumental song.
Yeah.
That has to be a nod to Blue Note Records, the jazz label. It has to be.
Okay.
Because it's
that
like
makes sense
it's
because
just
it
an
is
instrumental.
kind of jazzy.
It's a jazzy drum.
It's very
like
quiet.
It's a jazz. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very quiet. Blue Note Records. The song is called Blue Note. It's an instrumental. It sounds like jazz. It has to be. I don't
That
know.
has to be.
I
That's
might
pretty.
just, I might just be projecting, but I feel like
No,
it is.
I give that a leg to stand on. I'll back that up.
Yeah.
That's
I
got
feel like
be.
it 100% is.
Yeah.
There's no way it's not. But this is one of those albums that I feel like it's stood the test of time for me.
Same, yeah.
We always joke about it
Oh yeah,
all the time.
all the time, and it's and I feel like it comes from a genre that was such a flash in the pan. It was like the late 2000s, so like leading up into 2010 to like 2013. This was the kind of music that was coming out from the rock metal scene. Was a lot of this post-hardcore, Underoath, Taking Back Sunday, The Used, Kyotos, Drugs, Thrice, all of these bands, and then it's a genre that had such prominence back then because every fucking buddy was listening to these bands and this genre, this kind of music, of this, people will call it whiny kind of vocal over this aggressive ass drum track and then screams, that's what it was. And now you don't kind of see a lot of it, so it's really nice to go back and be like, man, this came out in 2004, like what the fuck, like it's any good album that came out from any of those bands I just listed is a fucking time capsule for a weird ass time in music, because it was literally just like 6-7 years of a genre that doesn't there's not a lot of new content coming from that genre.
Sure.
People that are getting into that now are listening to fucking They're Only Chasing Safety.
Yeah.
Like there's not a lot of new, like, oh, Underoath came out with a new album and it's blah blah blah, which is a victim of circumstance. That kind of music can only be like, it is, like I said, a flash in the pan.
It was captured so perfectly.
Yeah.
And like I feel like if any artist was to like make something like this, or even if it was like Underoath that made a new album, they'd come back to this time period of these albums that were coming out. Because like you said, screamo, it was like a good mix of like screamo and rock and like clean vocals and metal, and it was just like perfect.
Well, it's because it was kind of also, Blink-182 had stopped being relevant right about then. Like they were putting out music at that time that wasn't that great, and so it was like, oh, we can take this radio friendly punk stuff but also add like, I really fucking like Slayer to it, Slipknot kind of kicks ass, but I also really like Blink-182. Here we go. That's kind of where you can kind of where that kind of came from, in my opinion. But
at the same time too, like I'm always looking for like new rock music to get into when I'm like at the gym or doing something, because it just hypes me up. So coming back to this and the rest of their catalog, listening to it, man, it was perfect.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Perfect for me.
All right, shall we top 3 this baby up?
Dive in.
All right, I got us. Let's see. Honorable mentions: it's dangerous business going outside your front door and reinventing your exit. And then number 3, I'm content with losing. Number 2, down, set, go. And number 1, a boy brushed red, living in black and white.
Nice.
I could have talked for fucking 15 minutes about that song alone. Goes a lot of really good places, a lot of great breakdowns.
Yeah.
A lot of, like, even the scream vocalist does some cleans on there, which are actually pretty nice. So that's mine.
Very long song titles too.
Yeah,
That's what post
right?
again, all the bands I list, Taking Back Sunday, those guys, extremely long song titles.
Yeah.
None of it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if I'm going top 3, honorable mention, I'm gonna go Downsec, or no, I'm gonna go A Boy Brush Red.
Yeah.
That's my honorable mention. Top 3, Reinventing Your Exit.
Nice.
Down, Set, Go.
Nice.
And then The Impact of Reason.
Ooh,
really
Impact
liking
of
that
Reason
song.
was a good
I
one.
was really liking that song.
It's a good one.
That was a good one. Honorable mentions for me was the Blue Note / Some Will Seek Forgiveness.
Yeah.
I like those 2 tracks. Number 3 would be It's a Dangerous Business, Walking Out Your Front Door.
Nice.
2, I'm Content with Losing. And then the song that drew me into this album, Reinventing Your Exit, was my top pick.
Fuck yeah.
Great album.
You know it's 12th and Hyde?
Oh, is
12th
it?
and High. That's what Spotify says on the lyrics. I haven't looked into it on Google. I feel like it's 12th and High. Not
Because there's a high street in almost every city in America.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. If it's 12th and Hyde, I don't give a
My
fuck.
life's a lie, yeah.
if it's not 12th and High, I don't give a shit. I'm still
Yeah.
I'm still saying 12th and High.
Yeah.
You can't make me, okay?
Yeah.
But anywho's, that was They're Only Chasing Safety by Underoath, which was my pick for this week. We'll go ahead and introduce our picks for next episode right now. Okay. It's time to introduce what next week's content will be. And doing so, we will start off with Matt.
Yes. I'm going to throw a curveball at everybody. From 1996, an album called Spirit Chaser by a band called Dead Can Dance. A little tribal,
Okay.
Algonquin, not English at all.
Nice.
One of my favorite bands for just like rewinding and just letting loose.
Okay.
It's very inspirational. So
I've heard the name Dead Can Dance,
Yeah.
but I don't think I've heard the name, but none of their music. So
Cool.
Very interesting.
Yes, I like new things I've never heard of. I love that. This one you guys might have heard of. It's definitely been coming back recently. Mort Garrison, Mother Earth, Plantasia,
Okay.
or other words, Plantasia.
Nice.
That's what a lot of people know it by.
Nice. Plantasia. I like it.
Plantasia.
And I'm going into a genre I've never brought up before.
what? Get
Yeah.
out of here.
I'm going with Otis Redding. The Dock of the Bay.
Nice.
Banger.
I saw that in your Discogs collection when I was browsing.
I saw it too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, you have that? Wow. And
Yeah.
look at you brought it up.
No, just recently bought this. It was one that I was seeing at Moonrock all the time and kept being like, do I want to? As I've been a longtime Otis Redding fan, but just recently picked that up. So,
Heck yeah.
Dock of the Bay, Otis Redding, good
Nice.
shit. And we've got Dead Can Dance and some fucking Plantasia.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a good episode. This was a great one.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, I'm Dorian. That's Matt. That's Jacob. We'll go ahead and catch you next week. Have a great week. Be safe out there. This has been Whatchu Spinnin, episode 41.